so they can make their own informed decision, which I still do that. That's absolutely critical. That's absolutely vital. This is where there is still a benefit to the long-form video or long-form sales page strategies I teach inside of my systems. But at the same time, recognize the fact that this person is reaching out to you means there's a problem they need help resolving. Even if it's renovating a kitchen, even if it's hiring a photographer to get some new photos for their website, in all that you do in your business, sales and influence is noble as long as you're solving a problem. And as soon as you understand that, how dare you not give them the opportunity to buy? And if we can get there a little faster with a few hypnotic language hacks, we can help influence those decisions even better. You know your business can change people's lives, but you don't yet have the right words to inspire them to take action. Imagine the changes you will create in your business as you tap into the secrets of ethical influence and positive persuasion to not only better serve your clients, but also to supercharge your financial freedom. I'm your host, Jason Linett, and welcome to the Hypnotic Language Hacks podcast. I help entrepreneurs and business owners just like you to close more premium sales. And no, this isn't about tricking or manipulating people, not at all. It's about helping your prospects to appropriately sell themselves into your products or services. Please hit subscribe and get all the episodes now at jasonlinett.com. It's not just what you say, it's also how you say it. Think about this for a moment. What if you could ask a question? What if you could ask a question in such a way that by doing so drives people to make decisions and take action inside of your business? Or think about this on the other hand. What if instead someone had a false belief system, an idea that was maybe holding them back? What if you could feed back their statement of an idea in such a way that now starts to create doubt and starts to basically break apart that false belief system? That's exactly where we're going today here on episode number 6, Shifting Tonality for Business Influence. And let me give some credit where it's due as to exactly why I kind of shuffled around the docket of the first 10 episodes, and you're getting this one here today. Episode number 4 I did with Pat Flynn of The Smart Passive Income. If you go back and listen to that one, we talked briefly about how an expert might just be that person who's maybe 1 or 2 steps further along than you are. And in our conversation, I shared the story of teaching this concept of tonality to one of my students, just as a quick aside. And weeks later, out of everything that we did, he goes, I am using that all the time. It is creating massive impact. This is great. That's my closing strategy now, he says. People are making use of my service now even faster. Thank you. And I had hinted at that story in the Pat Flynn episode. And Pat goes, okay, that was a really cool hook because I want to learn that. So here it is. Episode number 6, Shifting Tonality for Business Influence. Before we get started today, if you want to easily grab people's attention, naturally build authority, and organically have your prospects wanting more from you, even before you make an offer, I've created a step-by-step strategy to help you to do just that. I call it the Video Influence System. This is your opportunity now to discover my highly effective, entirely free, on-demand workshop at jasonlinett.com. It's specifically for entrepreneurs who want to deliver premium value to their clients to receive premium value in return. If you want a proven framework to boost your confidence and deliver value every time you go on camera, get the Video Influence System now at jasonlinett.com. I'm going to make 2 promises to you for today's episode. Promise number 1, practice makes permanent. The more you make use of this pattern, the more natural it's going to come to you. The more you start to realize there's a tonality range in terms of where you can take your voice, the more influential these patterns are going to naturally become. That's the overview of where we're going today. Promise number 2 is all about this specific moment right now. You're going to feel a little silly doing this part with me, which is where, please, if you're somewhere where you can follow along and do some of this stuff out loud, really do it. The more you let this just become this playful pattern at first, the more natural it's going to feel later. Now, chances are you might be in a place where you can't do this out loud. in which case do it in your head. But as soon as you're somewhere all by yourself, in your car, your home, wherever it might be, do it right away. Because again, just by feeling the tonality shift, that's going to help you to begin to let this become even more natural for you. So here's the game we're going to play. I'm going to count to three different times, and I'll pause in between the counts. And I want you to either please repeat out loud exactly what you've heard me say and do your best to kind of match my tonality. Or then again, if you're in a place where you can't yet do this out loud, imagine it in your head. And again, as soon as you're all by your lonesome, do it. Seriously, that helps. Here we go. I'll count 3 times. I'll pause in the middle. You repeat after me out loud or in your head. Let's get started. 1, 2, 3. And that's a question. 1, 2, 3. And that's a statement. 1, 2, 3. That's a command. So as simple as it is, let's do it one more time. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Which the visualization of this, I'd encourage, again, head over to the show notes, jasonlinett.com/6. That's where we're going to put a graphic that shows you all of this. If you're watching me on video right now, you can actually see it behind me. Even if you're listening to me now, you can pick it up later. Because it's where the tonality shift at the end of our sentence is what starts to designate whether something is a question, whether something is a statement, or whether something is a command. Now let's soften the word command because that is a rather commanding word. It could be a suggestion. It could be a direction. It could be a statement leading towards an intended outcome. That's what I mean by command. So it's not that I'm demanding and commandeering someone's life. No, not at all. Use your powers for good. It's instead the mindset of instead directing action, which we're going to bring this to a couple of different concepts here, which let me give you 2 quick stories to illustrate the premise that I set up back in the introduction of taking someone else's belief system, taking someone else's belief systems that, again, the rule to this is only do this if that belief system isn't quite working for them. And instead, now we're going to feed that belief system back to them in such a way that now something that used to seem solid, something that used to seem concrete, something that used to seem real, now starts to appropriately break apart. So there's a time that I got a call from somebody. The backstory to this, I got a call from somebody and she was looking at the fact that she had no clients for her business. Nothing was working, and for a really good reason. Now, she was one of those people, and you might have been there as well at some point, going, I'm doing everything, none of it's working. And I come to find out she's refreshing Facebook a couple of dozen times an hour, basically waiting for the phone to ring. There's no action, therefore there's no action back. And the beginning of the call was the statement, now, I'm not yet ready to invest in a program. I'm just kind of looking around right now. And yet the truth was, the more that she wasn't doing anything effective for her business, the more likely she was going to see the same negative result. So throughout the course of our call, of course, I explained, here's what I do inside of the program. There's patterns for video, there's patterns for writing, there's strategies for networking, and basically detailing everything inside of my program, Business Influence Systems. And as we went through that, we were highlighting just in a natural way, okay, you haven't yet been doing anything here because you don't yet know what to do, which is why my program has that. You don't yet know what to do here, which is why my program has that. And then I waited for a moment where there was a natural pause in the conversation and just simply reiterated back the original statement. But you're not yet ready to invest in a program? And she paused and she goes, well, actually, yeah, I think I am. I think I want to go ahead and sign up. Let me do the pay in full. So there's a natural example of, again, here was the belief system. Now, what was in the midst of that was simply feeding back strategies, playing a simple cause and effect relationship. Go back to episode number 3 of this podcast series, all about the qualities of hypnotic cause and effect relationships, basically doing that. But then the closing statement wasn't some fancy bit of phrasing that I invented, wasn't something I read from a book to crush objections many years ago. No, the natural closing moment was simply stating back her belief system, But now, stating that statement as a question, but you're not yet ready to invest in a program? Well, actually, no. Yeah, I am. There's the power of tonality. Another example of this was a personal coaching moment. This was a personal coaching moment of working with a client in a hypnotherapeutic context. This was someone he was coming in to quit smoking. And as part of it, he came in with this massive story of this hideous breakup and how in his model of the world up until this moment, that was every reason why he had not yet quit smoking. He went through this horrible breakup and all of this, and it just took one statement, but phrased again as a question to inject some doubt, to start to suggest uncertainty, which was the simple statement, okay, but if I have this right, you were a 2-pack-a-day smoker before you met this person? Well, yeah, no, that's got nothing to do with this. The story that he brought into the process as to every reason why he was smoking 2 packs a day soon became every reason why he didn't have to do that at all. So that's the power of tonality. All I did was I kind of planted a seed of taking their belief system. This is the power of, again, remembering you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. As much as you listen to my podcast here, it's a bit of a monologue. I'm talking directly to you, unless it's you listening in on a conversation with a guest. But remember, in your business process, it should not be like this at all. It should be a natural ebb and flow. It should be a natural give and take, because the most influential language you can use in your business is the language you elicit by simply listening and utilizing. And then again, now that we've got the tonality, what did I do there? I took the belief system and I simply fed it back in such a way that there was some doubt. This is where I have to now give reference where it's due or maybe where it's not due. There's sort of the Valley Girl kind of way of speaking, where at the end of the sentence, you're just kind of going up and it's just this sort of upspeak type thing. Yeah, don't let it be that. But now that we've made a parody of it, chances are it's going to be more easily remembered. As opposed to more easily remembered? No, don't do it that way. So how do we use this now with questions? Because this was the pattern that my student, this is the story that I told Pat in episode number 4 with Pat Flynn. The story was, again, of taking a question and now turning it into a command. Because let me ask you, are you ready to get started today? Let me ask you, are you ready to get started today? Is the way that the tonality should naturally go. What we did there instead was shift the tonality in such a way that now it went down. So let me just ask you, is this something you'd like to get started on today? And at the end of the sentence, my tonality, I'll give you the dynamic in my mind as to how I make this work. This is we sometimes call these things hypnotic cheat codes. This is my hypnotic cheat code of how I do this. In my head, I'm crafting a bit of a run-on sentence that I finally finish for you. Because as you consider all the options and everything we've looked at, let me just ask you, is this something you're ready to get started on today? And there you go. The tonality kept rolling on, kept rolling on, kept rolling on, and only at the end of the sentence, when I was ready to, quote, go in for the close, ready to get started today. Now, for those of you that might already be inside of my programs, you might recognize that's the pattern of also an embedded command, where a statement begins with a verb and it's a falling tonality to imply a command. We may do an episode on that later on. It's definitely inside of Business Influence Systems for those inside of that. But it's where we can start to look at the end of that sentence. At the end of that sentence, the tonality is going down, which delivers the question as if it were either a statement or a command. Because as you consider all the various options, let me just ask you, is this something you're ready to get started on right now? Get started on right now was the phrase that kind of crept its way into that pattern. And by doing so, again, I always have to give the disclaimer here, please only ever use your powers for good. Here's the dynamic. This is a quick side story, by the way, as to where a lot of these patterns changed for me. Years ago, I used to teach something similar to this, which I've since appropriately abandoned because it sucked. No, I've changed my opinions. That's a better way of phrasing it. I used to say, I'm going to present all the viable information. I'm going to present all the criteria that a person might need to make a decision for themselves. That way, at the end of the process, without any sort of clever closing strategies or objection crushers, That way, they're either a ready or they're a not ready yet. And that was good, that was valid, and that was producing a ton of income, and that was working for me, and that was working for my students. And then I realized something. If we sort of zoom out of the business relationship, if we zoom out of the experience, the fact that this person is reaching out to you means that they're in need of either your product or your service. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing this. And this is going to be true across the board for nearly everything out there. Maybe you've got, I mentioned the example of, taxes. Maybe the fact that you've got a program to help people to start to clean up their back taxes and maybe reduce that debt. Well, the fact is, the fact that they're calling you means that they still have that problem. And at the end of that call, you might be able to say some positive things and help them to feel better about their situation. But if they haven't taken action upon it, they still have that tax debt. To which, in my mind, in a very positive way, I would encourage this mindset. How dare you not give them the opportunity to buy? Do you see the difference there? It's not how dare you not sell them hard. No, how dare you not give them the opportunity to buy? Somebody reached out to me back in the day of seeing clients for, let's say it was a person for seeing me as a hypnotist for resolving a fear. And again, I could say some encouraging things. I could throw some wonderful statistics at them about the fact that, technically speaking, you're safer on the airplane than you were driving to the car, to the airport. They know that stuff. And yet they still got the fear. So unless they hired me, unless they worked with me, that's how I could really help them to resolve that problem. Do you see where we're going here? So this is where my opinion used to be. I'm only going to put all the right information out in front of the person so they can make their own informed decision, which I still do that. That's absolutely critical. That's absolutely vital. This is where there is still a benefit to the long-form video or long-form sales page strategies I teach inside of my systems. But at the same time, recognize the fact that this person is reaching out to you means there's a problem they need help resolving. Even if it's renovating a kitchen, even if it's hiring a photographer to get some new photos for their website, in all that you do in your business, sales and influence is noble as long as you're solving a problem. And as soon as you understand that, how dare you not give them the opportunity to buy? And if we can get there a little faster with a few hypnotic language hacks, we can help influence those decisions even better to present even more value inside of what we do and ethically and appropriately receive even more value back. Let me get off that soapbox. Rant is over. Use your powers for good. Sell with intention. So this is why, again, by asking that question with that falling tonality, the mind hears it as a statement or even better, as a command. So start to play with this. And I wonder just how quickly you're going to put this to use today. You have been listening to the Hypnotic Language Hacks podcast with Jason Linett. Please stop everything and start exploring jasonlinett.com for even more business influence and persuasion resources. Make it a priority right now to subscribe to this program and listen to every episode, because the next one may reveal that one hypnotic influence secret to massively scale your success. Change your words, change your business, change your life. Get even more at jasonlinett.com.